Fading out is a Dawnage band, Irene Mirasi and Jeberet Munyoroku with the song Good God. Playing on Hope FM, listen and live. Good morning to you. Welcome to Activate on this blessed 3rd of December 2024. Such a great joy to have you join us every Tuesday. Is time for breakfast table, and that is family conversations. And today is not an exception. I did mention that on this very blessed day, we are going to have a conversation, a very, very, very pertinent conversation in this day, in this hour, in this year, in this month. I mean, we cannot stop talking about it because the question we are asking is, are our women safe? What's going on? Who will stop this? When will it end? Who's going to end it? What can we do to make the situation better? And our guest today is the Executive Director, Gender Violence Recovery Center at Nairobi Women's Hospital. Her name is Alberta Wambua. She's been here before, and we're happy to have you. Good morning, Alberta.
Good morning, Sharon, and thank you for having me again.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
All right, so I was going through the UN website, and I came across some very disturbing statistics that say that every 10 minutes a woman is killed. In 2023, every 10 minutes a partner, family members killed a woman or a girl intentionally. And I thought to myself, wow, what's going on? And so we have so many questions to ask today, but the big conversation, the elephant in the room is femicide. And we will move from femicide to gender-based violence. We will, move about from this to the other. And currently we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence going on. So we want to understand what that is about. So let's start with a bigger term here. And I say bigger, quote unquote. What is femicide?
Yes, Sharon. So femicide refers to, as you said, the intentional killing of women and girls intentionally so, and often arises from deep-seated, let's say, gender inequalities and destructive cultural practices or societal norms that demeans the dignity of women and girls. And femicide in Kenya takes different forms. It can be femicide, out of intimate partner violence. It can be femicide because of what we call honor killings. It can be femicide in some countries where it's infanticide. So you're killing a child because
you're a girl.
You're a girl and you wanted a boy and so forth. In Kenya, femicide also takes the form of, you've heard in some parts of Kenya where they would kill old women because they believe they are witches.
Yes.
Yeah. That's also femicide. So, or randomly also, you've heard of situations like the lady who was cycling at the bypass who was killed, or robbery, or even, as you said earlier, the gender-based violence. It's perpetrated on you and then you're killed. So that's femicide.
Right. Intentionally killing.
Yes.
And we will get to the why. Why is this going on? But we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What is this about?
So 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is a global campaign that runs from 25th of November to 10th of December. And around this time, there's heightened awareness on gender-based violence. Each year takes a theme globally, and this year the theme is Unite to End Violence Against Women and Girls. And there is also a focus on femicide. And why the focus on femicide? You saw earlier in the year where there was an uproar from, the public around femicide cases. Didn't get any better because just in the last 3 months, the Inspector General confirmed that there were 97 cases of femicide in 3 months. And of course, there are many others even way after that. So that's why then there's that focus on femicide, going out there and naming it and calling it out. Yes.
All right. So let's talk about statistics. You just mentioned the 97, but how do the current statistics in the country look like? And have the figures changed over the years? Are we getting better or is it getting worse?
I'd say it's worse. So femicide has been there. African Census did a study, and from January 2020 what was it, 2023 to December 2026,
Yeah.
they reported 546 cases of femicide. They also did it per regions, but one key thing to note is that 75% of the murderers, were familiar to their victims.
Victims.
Earlier in the year, we had, in January alone, we had over 20 cases. The DIG currently mentioned in 3 months where we had 97 cases. But after that, we had so many cases. You know, every other time you check the social media spaces and all that, you see that they're femicide cases. I'd also like to talk about, would I say, the underreporting. So there are a lot of things. Remember, it's culturally, and the social norms, the society norms, and the covering around it. So when you take time, we took some time, and when you take time and go like to the mashinani, you know, and have conversations, you actually realize there are lots of femicide cases, but people don't report them as femicide cases. The community will know, hush around it. So a lot of this also then masks the reporting of the same. Even when you look at the athletes, in just about, was it 3 years, we've had 5 athletes who've been killed.
Right.
So femicide is there, yes, it is in our spaces, and that's why now everyone is getting angry enough to be able to speak against it, because as you said, it needs to stop soonest,
Right.
immediately.
Let's talk about the statistics in comparison to other, say, African countries or the world across. How does Kenya seem to perform in this matter?
Africa is way ahead, you know, in terms of statistics of femicide cases. And Kenya is also ranking, would I say, really high, because we come right after South Africa. And so that's what I would say.
We come after South Africa.
After South Africa. And Kenya cases are also really high. In earlier, you're talking about, I'll give you an example. You're talking about the UN Women statistics.
Yeah.
Let me just, so in 2022, for example, worldwide, there were 48,800 cases, of women and girls, femicide cases that were killed by their intimate partners or family members. We said, you know, most of the alleged perpetrators are known to them.
Yeah.
And in 2022, Africa recorded the largest absolute number of female intimate partner and family-related killings, with an estimate of 20,000 victims, followed by Asia, which was 18,400, and 7,900 in the Americas, 2,300 in Europe, and 200 in Oceania. So, so I would say, yes, Africa is ranked high, and yes, Kenya right after South Africa.
So what's the issue, or what is the cause of this? Why are we ranking high? What has brought us here? What are some of the factors that contribute to these cases? Yeah.
Thank you. So the factors that contribute is, would I say, the gender inequality, the deep-seated gender inequalities and destructive cultural norms. When you see old women and assume that they are witches, you know, and we go and we kill them, you know, and it's usually mob justice. So sad. Societal norms that demand the dignity of women. We don't value women. We forget that women's rights are human rights, so to say. Gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is also a contributing factor, a major cause to the femicide cases. So we have all these forms of gender-based violence, from rape cases to domestic violence cases. Yesterday, I was with a lady who was supported at the Gender Violence Recovery Center in 2015. That's 8 years ago. She was gang raped by 10 men. And she kept on saying how if it's not the number of surgeries that she's been having and the psychosocial support that she's been getting, she'd be dead by now. She made a choice to choose herself. Those were her words. And till today, she still has issues with her pelvic area and all that. So we have met survivors who've been killed, you know, in that gender-based violence situations, or who've given up on life because of, you know, reflecting back on what happened to them and the psychological trauma. So those are forms of, those are causes. And gender-based violence, of course, is the social norms where you have this negative masculinity, you don't value women. You have, for example, female genital mutilation. Those girls who are circumcised
I was actually going to ask if
Yeah.
FGM falls anywhere.
Contributes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've met clinicians who've told me they've worked in certain parts of the country where when the girls are circumcised, they overbleed. And when it's getting so serious and they're brought to the, to the health facilities, they're not allowed to stop the bleeding because that's an honor. You're
Wow.
I don't know how to say, but you're killing that whole essence of the female genital mutilation. Those young girls, some of them are circumcised and they bleed to death. Some of them are circumcised and immediately then you're, quotes unquote, a woman ready to get married. At 9 years, you're getting married. You have obstetric, those fistulas and all that. You're getting married, you're carrying a child, you're running risks of death. I mean, that also contributes to femicide cases. So a lot of, would I say, also culturally, then that also contributes to femicide cases.
All right. I'm thinking about the legal framework. How effective are our laws? Because for us to be talking about cases of, female genital mutilation, yet it is a crime. Where is the disconnect? How effective are the Kenyan laws when it comes to policies that address femicide, GBV, FGM, and the rest of them?
The laws are in place and the policies are in place, to a large extent so. And I keep saying that it starts from the community and ourselves.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we don't call it out, we do not report, we do not follow through the process. So I'll give you an example of where I work.
Okay.
At the Gender Violence Recovery Center, where you have an average of 4,000 survivors in 1 year. Only about 15% of them will follow through with the access to justice. So why? Because there's that societal pressure. You don't remember we said it's the person familiar to you who reports who perpetrated the violence. So you're also scared. There's dependency. There's the societal expectation. But how can you report that your husband has abused you? You're the one who's breaking down your family. Oh, it's so important to be called Mrs. So and so. It's so important that I cover up, in case a child of mine is being abused because it's the uncle, it's the cousin, So that also contributes to the no reporting. So of course the law then is not able to take action. Again, sometimes we have to keep educating the public that you also need to report and report timely, not just because of the law to take action, but also for the medical treatment to be timely. So things like do not shower. The example of the survivor, and I totally understand. I mentioned yesterday, she took several showers when
After the ordeal.
Yes, after the ordeal, when she became conscious, you know. So of course there's that loss of evidence. Again, then we go to the actual response mechanism. There is capacity that's needed also to all the service providers to understand how do you collect this evidence, how do you even make fast that service friendly and not re-traumatize, the client. Because we want to break this cycle of violence before it even reaches to that femicide cases, if not prevent it, which is actually the best thing. So how is it collected? How is it interpreted? How is it presented in court? And the court has done a good job. There are now over 14 sexual gender-based violence courts. So courts that are just sensitized, personnel sensitized, understand the law better, friendly and convenient for survivors, for them to be able, fast tracking of the cases. They even virtual, court sessions. Then that survivors can report and give, testimony in their court. Some magistrates will even call you privately into their chambers, just to make sure it's comfortable for the survivor. So there's that. And then now there's the implementation of the law. So what I would say for these laws to be effective or effected is we all of us in that chain, from the public being aware, taking action, society not discriminating, not bringing stigma and all that, and everyone to the end, to the forensic labs, to everyone taking action and playing their part.
Right.
Then we'll say that the laws are effective and they're there. But the laws are in place, the policies are in place, the frameworks are in place. It's how then do we make it convenient for the survivor? But how do we, biggest of it all, make ourselves understand the human value and the human rights? And it's not a woman's issue. It's a human rights issue that we all have to address and have very what would I say, very punitive, convictions, so that liwe funzo to all the rest.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, right. You talked about you said 16 or so sexual...
Over 14.
Over 14
Yes.
courts
Yes.
that address the matters around sexual, you gave it a term.
it's sexual gender-based violence courts.
Okay.
Yes.
How do the people or how does this work? Let's just take a scenario that someone has been abused based on their gender or something, or there has been the issue of rape. What's the process to follow?
Okay.
Help us.
Okay. So when there's abuse to gender-based violence, you get to the nearest health facility. If
You
you're not-
start with the health
with
facility.
a health facility.
Okay.
If you're not able to reach the health facility, there are toll-free numbers you can call and you can be rescued. Or you can tell someone that you trust. So, for example, you can call the Gender Violence Recovery Center toll-free number 0800 720 565.
Please take that again.
0800 720 565.
Okay.
Or you can call the national helpline 1195 and say, this has happened to me, I can't reach the health facility. An ambulance or a way to reach you will be provided. Then you go to the nearest health facility. The Gender Violence Recovery Center has 8 hospitals that you can go to. Adams, Kitengela, Halingam, Meru, Mombasa, there are 3 in Nakuru. Or you can go to, even ourselves, we've set up over 14 gender-based violence recovery centers, other 14. So that means those are gender-based, would I say, protection units that are within the health facilities. That's across the country. Not necessarily there. You can also go to any hospital. They'll be able to provide the service. If not, they'll refer you to where you can get that service. So that's the medical treatment.
Okay.
So you'll go there, hopefully to be a safe space. You'll be able to share your experience. It will be documented. You'll be examined, even with lab tests and all that. You'll be given prophylactic treatment. So kindly report immediately. So that's within 72 hours, immediately, as soonest. Don't shower, the clothes you have, everything else, they'll be able to sort you at the hospital, but go with them. So once that is done, so as an outpatient, that treatment takes about 6 months. And there's also counseling sessions. So there's the initial, it's called psychological first aid. There's the adherence counseling, being explained for how you take, the prophylactic treatment when you need to come back. And there are different tests from hepatitis B to pregnancy tests if you're a woman or girl in productive age and all that. Now, for psychosocial support where I work, that would take even 1 year.
Okay.
Because then there are also group therapy sessions. Of course, based on the age, based on the form of gender-based violence. There are also social assessments that are done. So social assessments, because you could be a child perpetrated by a family member, you can't go back home. GVRC will provide temporary shelter. GVRC is also working with support from the Embassy of Denmark in Kenya to support 16 shelters in 13 counties. So you'll be able to get, a safe space, so to say, so that then you're able to get end-to-end protection, have the access to justice. So the social assessments are there so that then you identify the needs, individual needs of the survivor and support accordingly. Others would want, for example, economic empowerment to break that cycle of violence we're talking about. Others would be children who are pregnant, so they'll need support. Yeah. Others would be maybe they came late, they're already exposed to the HIV virus, they would need clinical support and all that. Others would need to go back to school. So it's very specific to different people. In that also there's the court process we talked about. So the reporting systems at GVS, you have legal aid clinics. So you'd have lawyers coming in, you have doctors coming in just to support you and tell you how to go about the process and provide all that information, but also support you in that process, the court process. So that would be the process. Now I've met survivors who would come years after the abuse, sometimes even just for psychological support. The survivors who've also come and gotten that psychological support, it does not end. That support, you'll just be, after the sessions and you're okay, you'll be told at whatever time you feel that you need this support, please come back. Yes. So that would be the process. Of course, after the what is it called? After the hospital, of course, immediately there would be the reporting to the police. I like to mention here that for the 23 years of existence of the Gender Violence Recovery Center, the last 3 years, so the first 20 years, the high source of referrals were the clients themselves coming to the center. But the last 3 years, it's the police are the highest source of referrals. So just to show you that, yes, there are reforms in the police and in the different what would I say, in the different also service providers. The police also even have polycare centers. One of them we're supporting to equip so that then they're able to support survivors, and examine them. They have all those professionals. So there is, would I say, good direction in terms of response to gender-based violence.
All right, thank you, Alberta. Let's talk about the impact. You just mentioned people coming for support, survivors coming for support later on. Let's talk about the impact on survivors and the society at large in terms of psychological, emotional, social, where femicide is, mentioned. The impact to the society and the survivors as well. Yeah.
So there's the trauma, Sharon. There's the trauma psychologically. There's the trauma to the family, to those affected, and even to us all. You remember, just when you're even doing the introduction, it was very hard for you to even talk about the word and even to talk about it. Myself included, and a lot of people I know, I've actually even stopped watching news. That's the secondary trauma that we get into. When you watch news and you see boiled bones of a human being, and things like that. When you watch news and see how these women are not only killed, but how they are, when I say butchered, and not just butchered, like wanakatwa na mpangilio, and all that. So that's very traumatizing. So, and the battle of feelings, even for the families, the guilt, the sorrow. Maybe I shouldn't have sent her to the shop. Maybe she shouldn't have gone. Maybe I should have gone with her, And then you have communities also getting divided because of such acts. And you've seen that in social media where you'd have one interesting, even politicians and very people in different and elite trying to justify and say, what did they go to do at the Airbnb? Saying it's a moral issue. It's because of your manners that you killed. The victim blaming that's going on, So, girls are looking for
money?
For money, arakaraka, microwave style, and things
money.
like that. So we lose focus on why we need the issue and how we need to stop it. And quotes and quotes try to justify femicide and justify violence. So that's one. And then there's the broader social impact. So femicide also undermines Kenyans' development and goals by maintaining the cycles of poverty, impeding women's economic participation. Because now you're also scared. Even just someone was mentioning the other day how they're even scared of going for walks, including for myself. You're scared, whereas before I could just take walks to nowhere. And just breathe for your mental wellness and your exercises. But now you can't. We are all very conscious about where are we going. Well, we can't even leave. You can't even leave the house. It's even getting scary at night. Not even just for women. There are no street lights. There are no what. It's those simple things that you just feel very insecure. So, of course, that will also limit your productivity.
Definitely.
Otherwise it would be a 24-hour economy in Kenya and all that, and the capital. So that's how I find it affecting, and also brings this, apart from just the community divide, but also the gender divide, the blaming for each of us. So the people who have talked to people who'd say, there's this hatred for men towards women and women being punished because of the economic empowerment. I've been in focus group discussions just to discuss and understand femicide. People say, imagine, Alberta, you're investing in this woman. You're investing in this young lady, umemsomesha, you've educated them, the end of university, and then they just leave you. I will finish you. And people even giving their own testimonies, not that they killed, but that they were almost near in those situations and how they got help in the last minute. Yes.
Wow. I'll take you just a little bit back, where we mentioned the issue of societal expectations and traditions and beliefs and things like that. Where this is concerned, violence against women is concerned, one would think that we have come of age as a country. But it seems not to be the issue. I mean, if we're talking about traditional beliefs and customs and quote-unquote women being lesser and things like that, and suffering because of that, what, in your opinion, what's the situation like? Why have we not sort of outgrown that kind of a mindset? Yeah.
We've not outgrown it. We've actually maybe gotten more confused, and it's just become more complex and taken a different shape.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. There's what we call technologically facilitated gender-based violence. Wasn't there earlier? And why the use of technology, the cyberbullying? You know, you're in a relationship with someone and they release your intimate, photos on the internet.
Yeah.
We are using technology to, you don't call for it, but you're getting very funny messages on WhatsApp. The exposure even to our children to, explicit materials on the social web, using technology, for example, to reach out to the perpetrator. So that's the shape it's taken. Look at modernization. So now there's this talk of, including today, and there's a headline, I think, in one of the newspapers, where they're talking about women are earning more than men.
Yes, I saw that.
I'll trust my husband to have sent it to me today morning.
I saw that.
So, I mean, what narrative are you passing when you actually go and critique?
Yeah.
Yes, they'll tell you women empowerment, women are in these spaces. But when you go to an organization, you'll find that, yes, the percentage of women is met. But what should I say? What chairs or what roles are they playing? You can say affirmative action, yes, but it's just for the say and for the paper. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
so you find most of them are casuals. None of them will be in treasury or a finance minister, or even if they're in the board, they'll be the secretaries. Even if you're seated there, tea comes, you're the woman, Sharon, to go and serve. You'll be given those eyes, oh, Sharon, pray for us, because it's quotes and quotes a women's role, or write the minutes, And when you actually even look at the wage and the women that they're being paid, it's not the same. How many companies, for example, would incorporate the reproductive role that women have, a nursing room, the 3 months that you're entitled to for maternity? Very few would do that. There are companies, not in this Kenya, of course, that would even give women, off or work from home because you're on your menstrual hygiene. It is what it is. We have to talk about it. Yes. So when you also talk to friends and family and colleagues about, even in the home situation, dear Utachapwa, rarely will you be beaten. I had one senator telling me, Alberta, now there's all this abuse, but there's no divorce. And I was like, okay, it's going to be what? Psychological torture, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. So that when you walk out there, no one will say there's a mark on this person.
But
no one will understand.
Behind the scenes,
behind
so much
the
is
scenes,
going on.
exactly. When you go for that support system from home, be told, but your father was also like this, tukavumilia. Or he'll be told, it's a woman to uphold the family and things like that.
Just hold that thought, Alberta. Let's take a quick business break. We'll be back in a few. If you just joined us, this is Hope FM Listen and Live, talking about femicide. And the question is, are our women safe? If you have a question or comment, share it with us on 20933 0717 400 555.
Hope FM, another quality service from Christ, is the Answer Ministry.
The Business Line. It's just business.
The Cooperative Bank of Kenya has been named the winner in the banking sector at this year's CIO 100 Awards following a vigorous selection process that entailed scrutinizing IT-driven projects that have made a tangible impact on business operations, community development, and digital transformation across the African continent. Coop Bank won the top accolades for the design and development of the Direct Settlement System, DSS, for the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. The DSS stood out among the numerous competing projects submitted for contest by banks across Africa, with the Absa Group of South Africa and the First Bank of Nigeria making it to the finals. And Kilifi County is set to benefit from the installation of electricity for use in various industries. Speaking during the launch of the Parange Rerek Electricity Connectivity Project, Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi said local leaders have been lobbying his office for the same for their industries.
Huyu mbunge wenu juzi aliongoza kikosi cha wabunge wote wa Pwani. Wakaja kule afisi ya Kawi, kaweka mkakati ya kuweka stima katika hii kaunti nzima for the next 2 years. Hata kule Taveta kuna mtambo ya mchele, vile vile kuna kiwanda inayokuja ya ndizi. Sisi kama wizara tutawekeni nyinyi transformer ya 3 phase ili isaidie nyinyi katika hiyo kazi ya viwanda.
Investment, Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria hailed President William Ruto for pushing for value addition in agricultural produce.
Bali na ile kiwanda ambayo tunaanzisha Manga, hii chakula nyingi iko hapa, tunaweza fanyia value addition. Na mambo ya value addition ya mambo ya kilimo ni ajenda yako Mheshimiwa Rais. Kwa hivyo sisi tutaendelea kukuunga mkono ili azma yako iweze kufaulu.
That's business. Good morning, I'm Melissa Odwar.
The Business Line. It's just business.
Listen and live on 93.3 FM in Nairobi, 93.9 Western Kenya, and 101.9 Mombasa.
The Breakfast Table on Activate. Listen and live.
Absolutely. Listen and live, and welcome back. And thank you so much for staying with us at Hope FM Live, our social media platforms. You can find the conversation right now online at Hope FM Live. And if you have a question or comment, you feel free to drop it on 20933. That's our SMS line. You can also find us at Hope FM Live across our social media platforms. Good morning to you, my brother. Thank you so much for joining us. You say loving the conversation. Glad and great to be in your company this morning. All right. So, Sister Mrs. Alberta is still with us. And we continue on with the conversation this morning on Femicide. And the question we're asking is, are our women safe? We were talking about how, one is quote-unquote safe and not safe in the sense that they may not be hit physically, but then there's a lot of other abuses that are taking on in the person's life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
had you winded up that thought?
Yes, I had.
Okay.
Yes, I had.
Okay, great. So then I think the biggest question we are asking ourselves today is, what now? Or what then? What should we do? What must we do? Who must do what? Yeah.
Thank you. We need to call it out, acknowledge that it's there. It's what we are doing, and takes different forms. And I appreciate the fact that you're here, Sharon, and creating time to actually discuss femicide. It's one of the things about gender-based violence and femicide, which is also a form of gender-based violence, is it's like a taboo to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's society, it's within our society, it's entrenched in us. So we don't talk about it. There are those things you don't talk about it. You don't name it. You don't count it. And that's what we're doing now. We're counting it. We're saying, Apana, these cases, we have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And important to say that it's not even just about the numbers, even if it is one life. That's already.
It's a life.
That's already.
It's way too much.
It's
already.
way too much. It shouldn't even happen.
Yeah.
So, so what do we need to do? And lessons like from other countries. Give an example of Rwanda.
Yeah.
Rwanda is so super safe for women and girls that you can easily walk in the streets. You can, you dare you perpetrate any violence against a woman. And for them, they even have the women's voices heard. They have good, proper representation. I think over 50% of parliamentarians are women. So because who's best to talk and understand the pain or the challenges that the women are facing, and to be able to have those policies that are actually working and in place than the women and girls themselves who are suffering. I'm not talking about women and girls because we are biased. It's because even at GVRC, for example, the survivors are 90% female.
Actually, I had wanted to ask.
Yeah. So we're not doing it because you and I are women. No, we're doing it because that's, how the tilt is. And we're not saying that men are not violated. Men and boys are violated. And we provide that treatment. And at GVRC, we make sure that it's gender friendly. So if you're a man and you want a male counselor, there'll be a male counselor. You want a male doctor, there'll be a male doctor. And things like that. So we talked about the special courts. That's a way then. Now let's go to the response mechanism. So there's one, the community, creating that awareness, calling it out, letting people understand that it's a human rights issue, not blame and women and girls, not sit that, oh, women and girls are empowered, now we need to teach them a lesson and things like that. You've also refused. So exactly that. So that community, not just awareness, but real dialogue, real conversation, intergenerational dialogues, even where it's needed. Male engagement forums where men are also coming and having these conversations. And that's the other challenge. We realize then that men need to also get more organized. The way we are socialized, at what point do they express their emotions? At what point do they understand and exercise positive masculinity? It does not make you lesser man, for example, to cook. In fact, there's once I think I called my dad and I asked him, oh, he's telling me he's cooking. I'm like, you cook? He's like, yeah, I have a stomach. and that that was such a statement. I was like, wow. So those things and people understanding that gender roles are changing. But the respect still has to be mutual and maintained. When earlier you're telling me, but this, we've developed. We are not this traditional. So what's happening? So things like that.
Yeah.
So again, now we go back to when we was talking about the support systems. So the support systems there, so that then even when survivors, we're breaking that cycle. We don't want the femicide end of it. We don't even want gender-based violence. But when the violence happens, providing that friendly, holistic, end-to-end support for that survivor and their families, so that then we can break that cycle, we can get them treatment, they can almost have their lives go back to normalcy, and just see then how do we break it. Is it economic empowerment? Is it whatever needs to be done? Is it the education system? Do we need to incorporate some curriculums? Do we just exactly that? What you said about even now comparison, the past and now. In the past, when people were getting married, you have your aunties and uncles,
right,
and really telling you about marriage, taking you through. You'd always have a fallback where you'd also go and continuously go and get guidance. That's rarely there. Yes, the church is playing a role and stepping in, but we still need that community and those conversations and that safety. I keep saying, when I was small, would go and play wherever and eat wherever. Lunch will find you, and you misbehave, whoever would beat you. And you wouldn't even come home and tell your mom that by then nilichapwa. They will beat you before they even know why you are beaten, and it was safe.
Yeah.
But then my kids go to play when they were young, I had to sit and watch them play.
Right.
That's how unsafe, it is now. So I've talked about, for example, I'll talk about the State Department and Affirmative Action, State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action. They even have the WAVE, Women Empowerment Fund, that's now digital. So those are some of the programs that have come to address that empowerment, or to try and break these cycles of violence and poverty, and just how do we empower the vulnerable? How do we empower the women, the people with disability? Actually, today is World Disability Day. So how do we, and things like that. So who's this that's vulnerable, and how do we make sure that we also break the gender inequalities that we talked about earlier? And that comes even in the education system. There's been some changes in the education system when I went to school and now. And that's how you have even the entrance to university, for example. You find the girls' entry marks lower. It's a way to balance that equation.
Yeah.
When in schools, for example, at GVSC, we have over 200 schools. We have school programs with different partners, UN Women, Canadian High Commission, Embassy of Denmark in Kenya, Danish Family Planning Association, where we have school programs and we have clubs, peer clubs, where boys and girls are able to share about their growth, their sexual reproductive health and rights. They're able to share about child protection. They're taught about how gender-based violence, and not just them, but even the teachers are taught basic counseling skills. The parents also, informed, the board of management, and you'd find there are some schools where, because of such sessions, and the girls were suffering, we call it period poverty and the whole menstrual hygiene, and that's also connected to gender-based violence. You have now abolition blocks built. You have tanks that were put in place. Things you never even think of how they even connected to gender-based violence, how even connected to all these things. But they needed water, they needed water for menstrual health and all those things. So building that community in the schools, in the homes, where there's open conversations. I'm understanding my body as a girl. The boy is also understanding my body. I'm also understanding the body of the boy. And it's not a longer taboo anymore. We're having this conversation. So you start breaking those gender inequalities that way. In the Employment Act, for example, you have the maternal care, there are all those aspects of having policies against gender-based violence, anti-sexual harassment policies, anti-GBV policies. So, you know, the maternal health, the paternity leave, the maternity leave, the nursing rooms for mothers.
Oh, nursing rooms.
I know. Hey, haven't we suffered in toilets?
Oh, my.
You know?
Don't even talk about it.
Nimegusa. So, yeah, and you know, those things, they're not simple. They look simple. Flexi hours. You can imagine if you told a mom to come to work at 9 and leave at 3, so that then they're able to take care of their young ones, and leave at 3 to even pick up their young ones. Mentally, they are so okay. The productivity hapa katikati, as opposed to 8 to 5. I don't have to see you here. It depends, depending, of course, on the work you do. It's about your productivity and what you give at the end of the day. Yeah. So those are some, and now that is even technical. So those are the ways to start breaking those gender inequalities and start, you know, fighting femicide and gender-based violence. And then, of course, in the home, the conversations. Today, yes, I also saw yesterday, sent to me again today morning, about Americs and how we keep asking the men for provision. So that balance of what are these roles that women do and men, but of course there's that one, but what society ascribes to. But even yourself with your partner, what is that understanding? Communication. Someone also told me about how couples are not communicating. If they even go for a date, count how many times they'll have conversations with each other and not be on their phones.
Are on their phones.
Yes.
Alberta, my time is gone.
Okay.
But thank you so much for such an insightful conversation.
Thank you, Sharon.
And thank you for the great work you are doing.
Asante sana.
And we wish you the very best.
Amen.
In
Asante.
a statement, how would you end this conversation? I have 30 seconds.
Wow. It's the time now. When you're asking earlier, when do we end it? We end it now. How do we end it? Doing our best in all the spaces we have. You're here. You can provide the platform to talk about femicide and gender-based violence. Congratulations. I'm here. I can create time and have those conversations. Yes.
Right.
We, both of us, go to our home spaces, whether it's our children, husbands, family, it's Christmas season. Let's have that conversation. Let's not see that person with a black eye and we're still continuing with our chama and our family festives and assuming, and we know that so and so is being battered, whether it's a man or woman, you know. This female genital mutilation happens in our homes. Now it's medical, it's happening in our homes. Let's not entertain it.
Thank you.
Calling it out and speaking about it, it's in the churches. Churches are doing a good job speaking out the social issues, even in the sermons and the podium. So all of us just doing our part.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciating
Sharon.
Alberta Wambua, the Executive Director, Gender-Based Recovery Center, Nairobi Women's Hospital, for such a great conversation. Please do your part. I would do my best to do my part. Let's bring this to an end. And have yourselves a lovely day. I'll see you tomorrow, same time and same place. My name is Sharon Naitore. Bye-bye.
Hope FM. It's now 9 a.m.
Listen and live.